Shocking, millionaire catches cleaning lady humiliated then explodes with rage. The morning sun streamed through the tall windows of the lavish mansion, casting a golden glow across perfectly polished marble floors. However, the circle of light only highlighted a darkness about to unfold. In the corner, the wealthy owner, Mr. Lancaster, towered over the cleaning lady, her cheeks flushed with embarrassment. She had knocked over a priceless vase, the kind you see in movies, the kind that holds secrets of a bygone era. It shattered into 1,000 pieces, and the air felt electric. The sounds of the city outside faded into silence, even the birds stopped chirping as this small disaster spiraled into chaos. The cleaning lady trembled, her hands shaking as they hovered over the shards like dancing shadows. The pressure of Mr. Lancaster's steely gaze felt heavier than the weight of the world. Had she ruined everything? The rich man's voice rang out, dripping with disdain, echoing off the opulent walls like thunder in a quiet valley. His anger, a storm waiting to break, twisted the atmosphere, leaving everyone holding their breath. She was just a cog in his operation, yet she felt every ounce of humiliation strike her like a lightning bolt. But what pulled the richest man in the neighborhood to such fury? Just moments before, he had stood with his back to her, admiring his collection, oblivious to the ordinary chaos unfolding behind his silk-clad back. Now, it was as if he'd been awakened from a dream, a nightmare, as if she had ripped the fabric of his utopian existence. Hands clenched, eyes seething, he was a volcano on the verge of eruption. In a flash, the masquerade of luxury turned grotesque. The room buzzed with whispers and gasps. "Did you see that?" a housekeeper murmured, her eyes wide. "He's gonna blow." The tension twisted like a blade in the gut. There was a moment, just a heartbeat, when everyone wondered how he might react. Then it hit. The full ferocity of his wrath. The cleaning lady flinched, the lump in her throat swelled to choking size. As if he'd pulled a trigger, shouting words that could cut glass. His emotions spilled over like a dam, bursting, a flood of outrage directed at her, the one who dared to disrupt his perfect world. "Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button, it really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. But as the room held its breath, a different sound lured them back, an unexpected ping, a strange laugh echoing from Mr. Lancaster's phone. It was an alert, vibrating with urgency and curiosity, breaking through the chaos like shining hope in the distance. Regardless of the situation, what could be more important to this man than what lay before him? Would it ease his fury or ignite something darker? As he glanced down, the crowd awaited his reaction, caught between the threads of shock and the tension of anticipation. What news could distract the tyrant? The cleaning lady dared to peek through her fear, heart racing, mind spinning in a whirl of unanswered questions. Something was brewing beneath the surface, a mystery coiling tightly around them all, demanding to be unraveled. And just like that, the tension morphed into an allure of uncertainty. What was next? The room shifted as everyone held their breath, their eyes locked onto Mr. Lancaster. The phone trembled in his grip, its screen illuminating his face like a spotlight. A frown twisted his mouth into a grimace. What he saw was not what he expected. The whispers swelled around the room. "What is it?" a housekeeper finally blurted, breaking the silence that felt stifling. A heartbeat passed where Mr. Lancaster's gaze remained glued to the screen, brows furrowing deeper. He was a fortress of rage, but now a crack was beginning to form. The cleaning lady dared to breathe a little deeper, wondering if there was a chance to escape this nightmare. Then, as if struck by a lightning bolt, Mr. Lancaster's eyes widened. The tension electrified the air, crackling like static before a storm. This changes everything," he muttered, mostly to himself, but loud enough for the crowd to catch the hint of dread woven through his unease. "What do you mean?" someone whispered from the back, a sense of anxious curiosity hanging in the atmosphere like a thick fog. Ignoring the question, Mr. Lancaster stepped forward, his fury seemingly forgotten for the moment. The cleaning lady lowered her gaze, afraid that any eye contact could reignite his rage. It was as if the world around them had paused, suspending time and fear in one fragile bubble that he turned abruptly, striding toward the nearest window, smartphone gripped tightly, knuckles white. Outside, the vibrant life of the city continued, ignorant of the chaos unfolding inside the mansion. He brought the device closer to his face as he scrolled furiously. The sounds of clicking and tapping echoed off the walls, mingling with the beating hearts of the onlookers. "Is there some sort of mistake?" he finally spat, a touch of desperation flickering in his voice. "I trusted. I thought." Unseen by the others, an icy fear settled in the cleaning lady's stomach. Whatever was happening, it sounded monumental, and yet all she felt was the sting of shards buried in her dignity. The weight of Mr. Lancaster's rage had evaporated, leaving something far more sinister in its place. Suddenly, with eyes locked onto the screen, Mr. Lancaster turned back to face the group. The smirk was gone, replaced by a hollow expression that sent waves of unease rippling through the crowd. "Someone has leaked information. This is a complete breach of confidentiality." A murmur of disbelief echoed. A housekeeper stepped back, glancing at the others as if searching for assurance. "But why would anyone?" "Everyone in this room is at risk," he cut off, the cold edge of his voice sending chills down the spine of anyone daring to meet his gaze. "The stakes are higher than you can imagine." A chilling realization gripped the cleaning lady. She wasn't just a mere cleaning lady anymore. She was entangled in something huge, something dark. And what Mr. Lancaster had uncovered could mean the difference between survival and catastrophe. "Did you do this?" His eyes bore down on her, the accusatory glare sparking adrenaline into her veins. She could barely breathe. "No. I would never." She stammered, but self-doubt flickered in her mind. Every instinct begged her to defend herself, yet she feared every word might land her deeper in trouble. Then the phone buzzed again, an unrelenting reminder of the storm brewing behind the facade of luxury. "He can't be trusted." A voice erupted from the crowd, panic rising. "If he's been compromised, we're all in danger." The atmosphere turned electric as everyone wondered about their roles and secrets. What was Mr. Lancaster hiding? What thin lines separated them from catastrophe? Shadows loomed as excitement and dread mingled. The heart of the mansion trembled with uncertainty, and the echoes of fear were palpable. Underneath it all, a newfound tension coiled tighter with every word spoken. As the air thickened with anticipation, everyone illicitly turned their attention to the screen, wondering if they would finally discover just how deep this conspiracy went. She suddenly realized that the true horror might not only stem from Mr. Lancaster's rage but whatever it was he was about to unveil. The chilling thought coursed through her mind. What if the smashing vase was only the beginning? Where would it go from here? The room held an uneasy silence, every gaze weighted down by suspicion. Mr. Lancaster's grip tightened around the phone, knuckles turning a ghostly white. The screen cast a cold glow over his sharp features, making him appear even more menacing. He turned it sideways to show the group. "Look!" he barked. Suddenly, a flurry of images flooded the screen, suspiciously placed screenshots, hidden truths, and incriminating documents. Gasps echoed, faces pale and eyes wide with horrified recognition. The cleaning lady felt her breath hitch in her throat. "What does this mean?" Someone shouted, desperation slicing through the tension. "The details of our contract, secrets of this company, our entire operation. It's all out there," he shouted, the rage rising back into his voice like an uncontainable wave. But it wasn't just documents splashed across the screen. It was something more personal, something that revealed the hidden heart of their employer. Files that implicated even the most trusted members of Mr. Lancaster's circle. Decisions made in the dark now laid out bare for all to see. Amid the gathering storm of accusations, the cleaning lady's mind spun with blurred images and desperate thoughts. They couldn't find the source without assuming blame first. Was it her? How could they even think it? Her chest tightened, and she felt impossible tears welling up. Then as the murmurs crescendoed into an angry uproar, a voice cut through the clamor. None of this can be true. This has to be a joke. Who would do such a thing? The cleaning lady turned, heart pounding as she recognized Carol, the head housekeeper, attempting to stabilize the growing chaos. We've worked too hard, too long, this can't be real. Yet here we are, Mr. Lancaster snapped. You all need to consider who among us has the most to gain from this betrayal. Instincts kicked in, and the cleaning lady's heart raced even faster. What if it were Carol? Or Robert? The unease grew heavier, thickening the air. Hers was a quiet life, cleaning up after the very people now casting shadows of doubt in every direction. The surface-level calamity made it feel like there was a tremor beneath their polished lives, ready to erupt. Stop. She didn't recognize her own voice as it broke the spell of hostility. What if it is someone from outside? What if they're manipulating us? She felt a dozen pairs of eyes swing toward her, skepticism etched into their expressions. Did they see her as a voice of reason, or more likely as an easy target? Look around, Mr. Lancaster grumbled, his glare piercing. Does anyone here seem innocent? Accusations dance in the air, and the truth could likely shatter more than just reputations. It could destroy everything we've built. Adrenaline surged through her veins. Could she really convince them? Every reckless movement now felt like a step toward danger. If someone's trying to take us down, they won't stop with just one revelation, she urged, hoping to gather momentum. We have to figure this out before it's too late. Every second passed with the weight of 1,000 decisions to make and no guarantee of safety. Shadows flitted across the crowded room as internal divisions began forming, whispers becoming chatter layered with accusations. Suddenly, Mr. Lancaster's phone buzzed again, a fiery intensity igniting in his expression. It's not just a breach. They want more than our names. They likely have eyes and ears everywhere. His voice cracked, a raw edge surfacing that shocked everyone into submission. The stakes were skyrocketing, and their world felt like it was swaying perilously on the brink of collapse. With wary eyes, the cleaning lady and the others watched as Mr. Lancaster's fingers flew over the screen. Each stroke felt like a countdown, a race against time. Then he froze, eyes widening again, this time, not with anger, but with knowledge they were cracked open again to shatter. A raspy whisper escaped his lips. They know everything, including our secrets. As tension seeped back into the room, threatening to break them apart, the cleaning lady's heart raced. The question loomed heavy, suffocating her thoughts. What secrets had he uncovered? And could they survive whatever storms were coming for them? What would it truly take to survive this night? The air was electric, a palpable storm of anger and fear swirling like smoke among the group. Each pair of eyes darted between Mr. Lancaster and the phone, betrayed and defensive glances ricocheting like bullets. The cleaning lady, heart hammering in her chest, felt the walls of her quiet life closing in. She shifted her weight, feeling the sweat pooling beneath her palms. Secrets? Carol spluttered, looking shocked, almost offended. What secrets, Lancaster? We need to face this together. We can't let whoever did this take us down. The desperation crackled in her voice, nearly drowning out the rising tide of accusations circling like vultures. You think this is about unity? Lancaster shot back, his voice rising again. This is very personal. Our trust has been shattered, and the betrayal runs deeper than we ever realized. He raised the phone high, his voice trembling between rage and fear. The cleaning lady forced herself to breathe slowly. The shadows of doubt hung like a heavy cloak. Lancaster's outburst cut through her, a fear she couldn't quite shake. What if the secrets were about her? What if someone decided to pin this on her for being the outsider? Enough. She spoke again, her tone sharper this time, trying to harness some bravery. Pointing fingers, won't help us. We need to understand who our real enemy is. A hush fell over the room, heavy and laced with disbelief. Slowly, eyes that had seethed with accusation now flickered toward her, some softening with doubt. It could all unravel, someone said, and she felt a wave of empathy wash over her. All of us could lose everything. Lancaster's eyes turned away from the phone, narrowing at the group as if searching for a clue among their faces. Then you understand how critical this is. We can't afford to not act. Whoever did this, they possess more than data. They have leverage, they have snippets of our lives that we wish to keep hidden. The tension crept back, the air thickening again. The cleaning lady felt the bead of sweat trickling down her spine. She stared at Lancaster, his jaw clenched, wild eyes searching for a semblance of loyalty amid the increasing turmoil. And how are we supposed to find out who's gunning for us? Carol asked, her voice a mere whisper now, trembling that a thought flickered in the cleaning lady's mind. She took a step forward. We gather everything we have: contacts, files, notes, whatever clues we can find. If they know our secrets, then we can find theirs. We need a plan. A ripple of agreement whispered through the room. The cleaning lady felt a sliver of confidence take root, hoping it would take hold quick enough before fear extinguished it. Lancaster's face softened, a flicker of something resembling gratitude shining through the turmoil. It's reckless, but maybe there's truth in what you say. We find their angle, we follow the clues. As he began pacing again, tapping commands into the phone with each word, the atmosphere shifted. Plans formed, tentative alliances began to blur the lines drawn earlier. But shadows still danced at the edge of her mind. What was really at stake here? Was it just them? A sound cracked through their murmurs, drawing a fresh wave of apprehension. A loud beep resonated from Lancaster's phone again, but this time, it carried a tone they hadn't heard before, something chilling and urgent. Look! He shouted, eyes wide. They're not just watching now, they're texting, they know we're onto them. Just then, a new message popped up on the screen, the tension so thick it felt like syrup. You have one chance to keep your secrets. Fail, and the consequences will be dire. The room dimmed, and dread settled in, suffocating. What had they all stepped into? Who were they really up against, and what would it cost to survive this night? As whispers turned into frantic discussions, the cleaning lady felt the weight of the darkness crowd in. She had to wonder, how far was she prepared to go for the truth, and could they outmaneuver the enemy lurking in the shadows? A new hook lingered, just as potent as the last message. What price would they be forced to pay when the truth finally emerged? The hum of anxiety wrapped around the group like a tight noose, each heartbeat matching the urgent rhythm of Lancaster's frantic typing. The room pulsed with a collective tension so thick it strained against the cracked walls. Messages fired back and forth as Lancaster zeroed in on the screen, his face illuminated by the glow, revealing every crease of worry etched into his features. Who do they think they are? Carol hissed, eyes wide and frantic. How do they even know what we're discussing? The cleaning lady felt the sweat slick against her skin. Were they all being watched? Were they already trapped, like prey in a snare? She couldn't shake the growing certainty that she was in over her head, a mere cog in some twisted game. Lancaster's voice broke through her spiraling thoughts. We need to split up. We'll never find anything if we're all in one place, and we can't let them know we're onto them. A murmur of agreement rolled through the group, and for a moment, the fear ebbed, replaced by a surge of determination. But the cleaning lady sensed the palpable fracture in their spirit. It was one thing to be united in purpose, but entirely another to face the unknown lurking outside. Wait, she interjected, summoning what courage she had left. If we're separating, we need a safe word. Something that warns if the other is in jeopardy. Her heart raced as the full weight of her suggestion hit her. What if someone didn't make it back? What if one of us is taken? Someone whispered, their voice cracking in the thick silence. Lancaster straightened, his jaw tightening again. Then we'll regroup here. Remember, trust is essential, more than ever. The weight of his words pressed down, like a freight train rumbling through their minds. She felt the urge to run. To vanish from this nightmare and into the safety of anonymity she was used to. But she also recognized a flicker of rebellion. If she vanished now, wouldn't it confirm the whispers circling her as the outsider? Who do we send where? Carol's voice turned urgent, eyes darting from face to face, fear glinting in her gaze. We need to keep each other safe. Lancaster began naming off areas. A local cafe. The community center. The park where they all gathered for lunch. The cleaning lady racked her mind, recalling snippets of conversations, images of frightened faces suddenly rising to the forefront. I'll go to the cafe. I know the owner. He can help me blend in, she said, hoping to make her voice steady. Are you sure? What if they catch you out there alone? Carol's concern was almost tangible, smothering. I have to. If they're watching, I need to assess how much they know. Her heart hammered, but the words shook loose from her resolve. The group reluctantly settled on their assignments, each branching into the night's shadows, whispering quiet fears like an old ritual. The cleaning lady felt the air shift as she stepped outside, the cool night brushing against her flushed skin. She walked quickly, eyes scanning for threats. Shadows loomed. Every creak and rustle made her jump, as if the darkness itself was alive, stalking her every step. When she reached the cafe, her heart raced. The doors creaked open, a welcome patch of warmth spilling over her. Then, through the glass, she saw a figure lurking in the alley. A figure that didn't belong. Adrenaline surged, she froze, throat tight. Wait. No, not now, she mumbled to herself, heart pounding against her rib cage like a drum. She thought of her reflection in the glass, saw the fear that could not betray her. But what if they had already figured out her place among them? As she edged closer, something sparked in the corner of her eye, a flash on the street, reflective and unfamiliar. Panic gripped her, the shadows shifted like liquid darkness. A voice echoed, brittle and faint, "She's the one." Her pulse quickened. Did they mean her? Did they know? What lay beyond those shadows could change everything. And there would be no turning back. Just as the figure stepped into the light, moments stretched like hours, and she caught a glimpse of an old, familiar face, one she never expected to see here. Could it be an ally or an enemy? Her breath hitched. The veil of truth hanging precariously overhead began to unravel, and all she could think was what had started this night would now end in a collision she could not foresee. The figure stepped into the light, revealing a face that twisted her stomach into a knot. It was George, an old acquaintance from her past, one she never wanted to see again. The memories flooded back like an unwanted tide, half-truths and buried mistakes told in whispered tones over cheap coffee and reckless decisions. His eyes, once warm and inviting, now burned with a coldness that sent tremors through her. George, she gasped, the name escaping her lips like a breath of frost in the chilling night air. What are you doing here? He stepped closer, and the shadows danced at his feet, creating an ominous halo around him. You know why I'm here, he said, his voice low and taunting. There was no warmth, just the echo of old betrayals that hung heavy between them. Her heart raced as she searched his face for answers. No, I thought I lost you back then. I thought you were gone for good. Desperation flooded her tone. She had fought to leave that life behind, and now it was creeping back in, wanting her to become a ghost of her former self. Failed decisions, ugly choices bubbled under the surface of her mind. If you're involved in this, whatever it is, just know I'm not afraid of you. I've moved on. But she felt her legs tremble, truth burning in her chest. He looked at her, a mix of surprise and amusement, but it turned to something darker. You think it's that easy? You can't just walk away from the past, not when the past wants you back. He leaned in, his voice dropping to a whisper that dripped with menace. They're watching, you know. They want something from you. Chills ran down her spine. Who were they? She had thought Lancaster's group were simply people caught in the web of this bizarre surveillance. She hadn't considered that the threat could be more personal. What do you mean they want something from me? Her voice quivered, the breath hitching in her throat. The cafe's warmth felt like a distant memory, now overshadowed by the chill emanating from George. Information, maybe. Or worse, this game you're playing has rules you don't understand. You're just a pawn, and you could lose everything if they decide to pull you in. She clenched her fists, fighting the onslaught of fear. You don't know what you're talking about, she spat defiantly, but even as the words left her mouth, doubt gnawed at her. Behind them, the cafe door swung open, the bell jingling innocently. A man stepped out, scanning the street, and the cleaning lady instinctively backed away, the instinct to blend in suddenly roaring back to life. George noticed her movement, a sly grin curling on his lips. "You ought to leave, while you still can," he murmured, and for a moment, she considered it. To run, to escape this tangled mess once and for all, but the glint in his eyes told her he wasn't finished. "I can help you, but it comes at a price. You want to know what's really going on? Then you'll need to trust me." Trust was a luxury she could scarcely afford. But the fear of the unknown, of the threat still lurking in the shadows, a threat that felt so much bigger than George, was suffocating. "Why should I believe anything you say?" she challenged, piecing together the fragments of her disbelief. "Because I know the truth. About why they chose you. And what you have to do to survive." His voice hardened, and something in her pulled her closer, despite every instinct screaming to run. Suddenly, a noise shattered the air, a screeching of tires, a sudden rush. Her pulse lurched. The figure from the alley, the unseen watcher, was now in her peripheral vision, and she couldn't quite discern if they were friend or foe. "Go. Now." George's voice sliced through the chaos, urgency igniting in his eyes. She took a step back, torn between the familiarity of old fears and the urgency of the new threat closing in. With a final glance at George, she made her choice, running towards the unknown rather than facing the familiar hell behind her. What had she just unleashed? As she sprinted down the street, the weight of his words echoed in her mind, "You're just a pawn." But could she become more? It felt almost like stepping into a storm without an umbrella. There was no going back from this point. And behind her, George's voice faded into the night as they converged, dark figures from the past rising with a vengeance. Would the truth save her or destroy her? Hearts pounding, they closed in, and for the first time that night, she didn't know if she would ever find her way out. She ran, her footsteps pounding against the pavement, a rhythmic echo of fear chasing her. With her lungs burning, she darted down a narrow alley, desperate to throw off whoever had slipped into the night behind her. The flickering streetlights felt like the heartbeat of the city, each pulse matching the surge of adrenaline coursing through her, but no matter how fast she moved, dread clawed at her heels. She glanced back and saw shadows stretching, twisting around the corners, closing in like a noose. The figure in the alley, it hadn't just been her imagination. A sense of panic surged as she realized she wasn't just running from George, she was running from the past, from all the choices she had made that led to this moment. In her mind, George's voice still echoed. "You're just a pawn." What did that mean? Who were these people? She had tried for so long to bury the secrets, to forget the life she had known. But it was all rushing back, a flood of betrayal and regret crashing against her heart. As she turned a corner, the cold night air bit at her skin. She needed a plan. She needed somewhere safe to regroup, to think. Her fingers brushed against her phone, the lifeline she had almost forgotten. But what could she even do with it? Call the police? No. Whoever was after her had already shown that they were willing to go to any length. A screeching from a car echoed nearby, and her heart lurched. She ducked behind a dumpster, her breath coming in frantic gasps. As she peered out, she saw the headlights of a vehicle zip past, shining like a spotlight over the alley, searching. The weight of being a target pressed on her shoulders. Then, it dawned on her. The cafe. The only place where she could find a shred of familiarity, where others might recognize her. Even if it was the last place she wanted to be, it felt safer than this chaos. She turned on her heel and headed back the way she came, the footsteps behind her growing fainter. Each step was driven by sheer instinct, her mind racing between fear and familiar determination. The cafe's neon sign glowed ahead, a beacon amidst the darkness. The door swung open, and she slipped inside, barely allowing herself a breath of relief. The warmth hit her like a soft embrace, muffling the world outside. She scanned the small room, eyes darting across familiar faces, none of which could help her now. But then she spotted Lancaster at a booth in the corner, his demeanor calm and collected, sipping from a cup of coffee as if the chaos of the outside world didn't matter. His sharp gaze met hers, and she felt a momentary flicker of hope. If anyone could give her answers, it was him. She hesitated, though. Could she trust him? Lancaster had always been enigmatic, his connections murky. The truth felt as slippery as her trust. But the choice was made, danger was near. Taking a deep breath, she approached, each step heavy with the uncertainty of whether it might be her salvation or the next link in the chain of her undoing. Lancaster, she whispered, lowering her voice as she slid into the booth across from him. I need your help. They're coming for me. He studied her, his brow furrowing the silence heavy with implications. Just as she thought he might respond, a loud crash resounded from outside, shaking the ambience of the cafe, forcing everyone's eyes to the door. The door swung open, and in stepped two imposing figures, soaked in shadows and danger, scanning the room as if they were looking for her. She felt a chill run through her, as reality braced her for the fray ahead. Suddenly, the line she had drawn between the past and her present became more blurred than ever. What would they do if they found her? Would George's warning come true? And just like that, a moment of instinct told her to run again, but where? The night held its secrets closer than she ever expected. Here, in this tiny cafe, the chessboard was laid out before her, and there was no escaping the game. Would she unravel the truth before it consumed her whole? Or would the pieces fall, trapping her in a checkmate she couldn't escape from? Lancaster's eyes widened as he took in the figures at the entrance. The cafe had fallen into a hush, the lively chatter replaced by a taut silence as patrons instinctively turned away, pretending not to witness the unfolding threat. Her heart raced, and she felt the walls closing in. The shadows moved closer. Stay down, Lancaster whispered urgently, his voice low and tight. Without hesitation, he reached under the table and grabbed her hand, his grip firm but reassuring. The figures stepped further inside, muscles tensed, their presence an electric charge in the air. She could see it in Lancaster's eyes, a mixture of concern and determination. If they were going to get out of this, they needed to act fast. What do we do? She breathed, panic threatening to claw its way up her throat. He shot a quick glance towards the door, then leaned in. We need to look inconspicuous. Just act like nothing's wrong. His voice held a gravity that calmed her, even if just for a moment. The two figures, men cloaked in dark leather, continued scanning the room, walking further inside the cafe. One passed so close to their booth she could feel the heat radiating off him. She held her breath, praying they would just pass by, that the shadows would retreat back to wherever they came from. But fate was merciless. Hey! You! The voice boomed, harsh and authoritative. Every word seemed to slice through the air. The cafe's owner, a burly man with a thick beard, stepped forward nervously. Can I help you? Yeah, you can start by telling us if you've seen this girl. The shadowy figure gestured toward her, his smile sinister, revealing teeth too white for a face so dark. She felt her blood run cold, the owner's face blanched. I'm not sure what you're talking about. Lancaster squeezed her hand tighter, and she could feel his pulse matching her own frantic heart. They were out of options, and her mind raced. Should she make a run for it? But escape felt futile with the men so close. Simon, don't play games with us, the other figure barked, narrowing his eyes. We know she's here. We want to ask again. The patrons around them shifted uneasily, some glancing at their phones, others pretending to sip their drinks with shaky hands. Lancaster, they'll kill us, she whispered, the tremor in her voice betraying her calm exterior. He turned to her, determination etched on his face. We're not done yet. Just keep your head. Then, in a swift movement, Lancaster reached for his pocket and pulled out a small flash drive. Holding it just above the table, he took a risk by glancing at her. If anything goes south, grab this and run. What is it? Proof. It'll explain everything about George. Just trust me. If they find us, you need to get this to someone who can help. The tension crackled like static. It felt as if the entire world was on the brink of collapse. She couldn't fathom the implications of what he was saying or what it all meant. She barely registered the muffled sounds around her. Just the terror of the moment, the unseen danger that unfolded in front of her. The shadows were closing in, the cafe feeling smaller with each heartbeat. The men moved toward them, the inevitable clash drawing near. "Time's up," the lead figure growled, and just like that, he lunged forward, his arm reaching toward her in a frantic bid to seize her. With no other choice left, her instincts took over. She grabbed the flash drive and leapt from the booth, her heart pounding as urgency ignited every nerve in her body. She was out the door in an instant, the chaos erupting in her wake, leaving Lancaster behind. The cool night air hit her like a slap to the face, a jolt of reality. She could hear a commotion behind her, a shout, a crash. Every muscle in her body screamed to run. But as she ran down the alley, breath heaving, her heart pounded with uncertainty. What lay ahead? Was she really escaping or just diving deeper into the shadows? Each footfall echoed the fear drumming in her chest. What had she just unleashed? With dark figures still at her back, she knew one thing: she was racing against time and destiny. But did she have the strength to face whatever came next? The answers she sought were only getting deeper, and the stakes were climbing higher. Suddenly, she spotted a flicker of light in the distance, and a wild idea formed. But as she neared it, a chilling realization hit her. What if it was a trap? Would it lead her to freedom or certain doom? In the void of adrenaline, escape wasn't just her desire, it was her responsibility. The night was far from over, and danger lurked just around the corner. What was waiting for her in the flickering light? The flickering light pulsed like a heartbeat ahead of her, illuminating the damp alley with a shuddering glow. She squinted against the darkness, her pulse racing wildly as she struggled to make out the source. It looked like a bar with loud music thumping from within. The churning dread in her stomach urged her to stay away, but the echoing footsteps of her pursuers motivated her to take the risk. "Come on," she muttered to herself, barely able to hear her own voice over the pounding of her heart. The heavy shadows behind her felt like breath on her neck, each moment stretching into infinity. She shoved the flash drive deeper into her pocket, gripping it like a lifeline as she reached the entrance. Pushing through the door, she staggered into the bar, the cacophony crashing over her in waves. Bodies swayed to the beats, laughter and shouts mingling with the clinking of glasses. For an instant, the chaos offered a strange comfort. Maybe she could lose herself in the crowd, but her relief was short-lived as she scanned the room. She needed a place to hide, somewhere she could catch her breath. Her eyes landed on a narrow staircase at the back that led up to a small balcony. Without second thoughts, she darted toward it, weaving through the revelers who seemed oblivious to her plight. As she climbed the steps, she could feel the vibrations of the music pulsing in her bones, drowning out the fear that threatened to consume her. She reached the top and slipped behind a few crates stacked carelessly in a corner, their scent of stale beer and abandoned dreams almost comforting. From her perch, she could see the barroom below, the patrons lost in their own worlds. It wasn't long before she spotted them, the two dark figures from the cafe, now scanning the crowd with hawk-like intensity. Her breath caught in her throat. Could they have followed her, Lancaster? Had he escaped? She felt a pang of guilt twist inside her, the reality that he might still be down there battling against them. Her thumb brushed against the edge of the flash drive, and suddenly, its importance struck her with renewed urgency. Somewhere within that tiny device lay the truth that could turn the tide. Think. She urged herself, tension coursing through her limbs. The men moved closer to the staircase, their silhouettes stark against the brighter backdrop of the bar. She needed to act, and fast. What if they found her here? She listened intently as one of the figures spoke. His voice cut through the noise, low and menacing. "We need to split up. I'll check upstairs. You keep an eye on the exit. She can't have gone far." That sent a jolt of fear through her. There was no time to waste. She had to find a way out, not just of this bar, but out of this mess entirely. Taking a calming breath, she peeked over her makeshift cover and scanned the room for another escape route. An exit door at the far end caught her eye, slightly ajar. If she could reach it without being seen, her heart thumped in her chest, the rush of adrenaline sharpening her senses. She placed herself low, scanning for any movement that might alert the men. Shadows flickered as the music swayed in its rhythm, each beat reminding her of her heartbeat, thrumming louder with every second that passed. If she could get to that door, she might find a way out. Suddenly, a hand on her shoulder sent a shock through her body. Ignoring the scream rising in her throat, she whirled to face a familiar face. "Hey! What are you doing up here?" It was a friend from her past, someone she thought she'd never see again, and she felt a glimmer of hope. "Jack! I need your help," she gasped. Before she could explain, an explosion of sound reverberated through the bar, cutting her off. From below, the dark figures shouted, their voices lifting in angry confusion. Another was approaching, the crunch of boots on the stairs unmistakable. "Go!" she urged Jack, as they both slipped further back into the shadows, but the crisis was spiraling fast. What would happen next? Were they truly trapped? As the door creaked open wider, the rushing dread engulfed her once more. Would they be caught? The flames of danger flickered closer, and this was only the beginning. What dark revelations awaited as the shadows descended upon her once more? The sounds of struggle broke through the noise of the bar, drowning out laughter and music like a thunderous storm. The shadows pressed closer, weaving their way into the fabric of her reality. The air grew thick with dread, clinging around her as she felt the warmth of Jack's presence beside her. He had always been a fighter, she just needed to figure out how to call on that strength now. "Jack, I'm being hunted," she said, panic threading her voice. "We need to get out of here. Right now." Jack's eyes widened as he listened, urgency chiseling his features. "Who's after you?" His voice was tight, glancing back toward the stairs where the voices were growing louder. He had never shied away from trouble, but this felt different, like they were in the eye of a hurricane. "They know too much. Secrets, betrayal, it's dangerous." She took a deep breath, trying to steady herself. "They're after something bigger than me, something they can use against us all." A fierce determination sparked in Jack's gaze. "Then let us not stick around to find out what they want." He nodded toward the back door, just past the crates. "That's our best shot." They slinked toward the exit, the thumping music masking their movements. Each step echoed her mounting anxiety. As they neared the door, a sharp shout bellowed from the bar room below. She went this way. The men were coming. They were closer now, anger radiating like heat from a furnace. Jack pushed the door open, and a rush of cold air hit them, refreshing yet foreboding. This was the break they needed. "Go!" Jack urged, shoving her forward as they bolted into the alley. The night was unfurling like a dark canvas around them, shadows dancing under flickering streetlights, but adrenaline was like a double-edged sword. She couldn't help but glance over her shoulder. The two figures emerged from the bar, scanning the street with eyes like predators after prey. "Split up!" one yelled, and her heart pounded wildly as she felt the weight of that command anchor her spirit. "No," she gasped, fear paralyzing her. "We need to stay together." Jack grabbed her hand, pulling her back to face him. "We'll be caught if we don't." There's a shortcut through the alley behind the cafe. "We can move faster if we split, but we'll regroup in 10. Trust me." The lump in her throat threatened to choke her. Could she trust him? But the urgency of the chase left no room for doubt. "Fine," she cried, a fire igniting in her chest. "I'll meet you back at the cafe." "Good. Stay safe." He turned and dashed into a separate alleyway, melting into shadows. Panic surged through her veins. She backed away from the mouth of the alley, focusing on the opposite one leading towards the back of the cafe. Taking a deep breath, she sprinted forward. Her feet pounded against the pavement, a rhythm that echoed the chaos unfolding within her mind. Every turn felt risky, but there was no going back now. She turned the last corner and spotted the entrance to another narrow street that led deeper into the heart of the neighborhood. With each stride, she gained speed, the adrenaline amplifying her senses. Sudden sounds, abrupt movements. She ducked behind parked cars and bins, her heart racing like a wild stallion, but just as she felt her resolve fortify, something stopped her cold. A shadow loomed ahead. Her breath caught, and she pressed flat against a wall, fingers digging into the rough surface. "Nowhere to run, cleaning lady," came a mocking voice, followed by laughter. It was one of the men from the bar. They had regrouped and were drawing closer by the second. "Think," she urged herself. What could turn the tides? She could feel the flash drive in her pocket. It pulsed like a heartbeat, a reminder of the truth she carried and the power it might hold. She turned the corner, slipping deeper into a nearby alley, heart hammering with uncertainty. Suddenly, she stumbled upon a garish mural splashing color against the drab concrete. A thought struck. Could this be a hiding place? "Listen, you can't run forever." The voice taunted again, now dangerously near. Quickly, she ducked behind the mural, pressing her back against the wall as she strained to listen. The footsteps faded, then re-emerged, growing louder in her ears. She needed a distraction or a plan, something, anything to buy her some time. Then it dawned on her. She reached into her pocket, pulling out her phone. With trembling hands, she quickly sent a message to Jack. "Need help. They found me. Cafe now." Hiding her phone, she scanned the alley for any signs of escape. She could hear them arguing behind her, anger mixing with frustration. She has to be around here somewhere. With no other option, she slipped toward the end of the alley, eager to escape the noise. Just as she rounded the corner, she saw a flicker of movement from the street ahead, a group of people, their laughter bouncing off the walls. This might be her chance. "Keep moving," she whispered to herself, focusing on the crowd, blending in with the life that thrummed outside. She stepped onto the sidewalk, her heart racing, every sound heightened and every movement scrutinized. "Act normal," she murmured, keeping her head down as she brushed past strangers. "Now," she thought emphatically, "if I can just reach the cafe first." The voices from behind began to fade, but her path was still uncertain. Just as she crossed the street, she spotted Jack sprinting toward her, eyes wide and frantic. Relief washed over her, but it came crashing down as her focus shifted behind him. "Jack!" "There." Before she could finish, the two men emerged from the alley, their determined expressions sending shockwaves through the calm crowd. "Stop!" one shouted, and the world froze for just a moment, fear compressing the air around her. But Jack lunged forward, eyes blazing with fierce protectiveness. "Run!" he called to her, rushing to intercept them as she propelled herself through the throng of people, heart pounding in sync with the chaos brewing behind her. She could hear the shouting, the urgent shuffles as her feet moved faster than they ever had before. She darted to the cafe, throwing open the door. "Help!" she gasped, desperation peeling back the layers of her anxiety. "They're coming for me." Inside, a few heads turned as the patrons realized the unfolding scene. The cafe owner shoved the door closed, locking it, confusion bubbling as he surveyed her. "Get everyone out. They'll come through the back," she shouted, panic tears threatening to spill. Just then, she saw George standing toward the back, knowing the monumental truth, the secrets that were poised to unravel with unfathomable consequences. Her heart thudded, recognizing the chain she was still tethered to despite her attempts to flee. Jack burst through the door, panting and flushed. "They're right on our tail." Then came the crash of the door slamming open again, the two figures lurching in, eyes glinting with menacing audacity. "There she is," one called triumphantly. The room erupted into chaos, table legs scraping against the floor as chairs were knocked over in a frantic rush to escape. In the turmoil, the flash drive slipped free from her pocket and clattered to the floor. With breathless urgency, she dove to retrieve it. "No! Wait!" she shouted, emotions clashing within her. But the man lunged forward, making a beeline for the flash drive. She could feel the world collapsing around her, fraying at the seams with every second that ticked by. "Don't let them take it!" she yelled, desperately scrambling for it, but shadows overwhelmed her as Jack pushed through the chaos, forcing the man back. A scuffle broke out, bodies tangled, cries echoing against the walls. "Get the drive!" she screamed. Struggling free from her own instincts of self-preservation, she lunged again, the chaos surrounding them, a maelstrom of desperation and chaos that in a blur of movement, she caught a hand, Jack's hand gripping hers with fierce determination. "Hold on," he yelled, and together they pulled back from the melee, stumbling toward the escape route she never wanted to find. Then, as they broke free and headed towards the back, the world swirling into whirls of lights and darks, she realized one undeniable truth: they were bonded, bound by the weight of their choices and the darkness hunting them. "Where do we go from here?" Jack questioned, urgency smoldering in his stare. The cafe became a blur behind them, a confrontation lingering like a haunting shadow. Together, they took off into the night, hands tightly clasped. The past still chased after them, but now, in the face of the unknown, they had a chance for friendship, for truth, for survival. And as they raced toward uncertainty, hope lingered faintly on the horizon, waiting to illuminate the darkness. Their story wasn't finished yet, it had only just begun. If you want to keep following the heartbeat of this unfolding journey, you need to subscribe now. This is the moment to show your support. Smash that like button to fuel the algorithm and keep these stories alive. Don't hold back, flood the comments with your reactions and theories on what happens next. And don't wait even one more second. Share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion and be part of this incredible ride. Your engagement makes all the difference.